we don't know what's going to happen. A lot of the school boards, including our own, would like us to delay recommending a budget to the town, but we can't.
No.
We're bound by town charter to have a budget in place, and we kind of back into the sequence of events because our charter specifies a town meeting on the first Monday of May, which I think is the 4th of May. And then you work backward to where we are now. You know, you go back. You have to have the publication period, and you have to have the public hearing. You know, I mean, and after that, the finance board finally sets the final budget, and then you go back to our initial deliberations and what we're doing now. Yeah. And all of that takes a certain amount of time.
Phil, let's just look at the current financial situation for the town. You say we have roughly about $500,000 shortfall
at the moment.
At the moment, and we really don't get the full picture until.
Well, actually, it's a little more than that. It's about $500,000 with tax collections, but there's more with loss of conveyance. It's around 800,000 right now. Yeah. But about 500 is tax.
And you know, we really should tell the public too. We've got another situation going on, and it's our high school. Basically, if we look at it, we don't want to dip into our rainy day fund. Essentially, we want to maintain that fund strictly for bond purposes, because if you start dipping into that, as I understand it through Barry Carina and what's been told in the past, the people such as Moody's and Fitch, when they start doing evaluations, when they start seeing that you're dipping into the rainy day fund, your interest rates start going up on bonding.
Right.
And the situation is within the town of Bethel, I guess this coming year, we've got to start bonding for the high school.
That's right. And as you say, it's a worry if you dip in, because we did have a surplus last year.
Right.
From a combination of factors. A better tax collection last year. Some of the town departments returned back some money, and the school department turned back $20,000. So it all added up to about $700,000 surplus. So we were, you know, but we don't want to take it all.
Right. No.
And because you say the bonding and the bonding companies look for approximately a 10% of a rainy day or town fund. And what the 10% is of your current operating budget, which ours is around $60 million,
right.
School and town together. So 10% is $66 million, and that's what our fund is now. But if you start dipping in too much, and then it hurts your bond rating, and you get higher interest rates.
And that means long term, more in taxes.
Right. Same with individuals. You know, your credit rating that you see.
Exactly.
The better your credit rating, the better likely you're to get credit. You're going to get credit perhaps at a better rate.
Yeah. So you know, it's not only this year that we're concerned about. I know you and I are looking downstream there, because we know that the middle school, that does not come off until, I believe, 2011.
Right.
So, you know, if you think 2009 and 2010 is an issue, we're already thinking about 2010 and 11, because automatically we have to start paying interest and principal, perhaps, for the high school. That's
correct. Now, this looked like the year coming up was going to be, and it's going to be a bad year, but in terms of bonding the high school, the controller, Barry Carina, is talking about phasing it in a little bit easier. He's talking about like 2 and 22-year bond, where this next budget year we would only pay 6 months interest on the high school.
Right.
And then the following year
we get a double.
Double, and then the principal could start to click in after that. So the middle school then would be coming off, so the blow wouldn't be as bad as it looked to be.
Right.
Because the project actually, you know, initially they were talking about this 6-7 years ago, and if it had passed and been completed, 3 or 4 years ago instead of now,
would be great.
Then we'd have a 4 or 5 year period of when you'd be paying off the bond of both the middle school and the high school.
Right.
And, you know, that would be a couple of mills in and of itself, never mind what your normal budget increases would be. So the phasing in is that he's talking about is going to be a little bit easier than it looked several years ago.
Well, Phil, you know, we start talking about the budget in general, okay? I always like to tell people, too, that the process that we go through, they should really check with town hall if they're interested in any particular department, board, or commission.
Right.
And these meetings are public.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and you and I have always advocated, get involved, because you know there's always this question, the after effect at the annual town meeting. You'll have all your answers there, more so, at these particular meetings. And this just gives you an opportunity to see what we really go through in terms of evaluating each particular line item. And as you said, this year, tough times, nobody's getting a raise, essentially, as far as, you know, the administrators are concerned in town hall.
Right.
And it's a very difficult season, and hopefully we're going to keep it very, very affordable for the people. You know, the budget proposals, as we look at them, they're coming through right now. My concern, okay, essentially centers around, is it always a reality check? And people are always asking me as a selectman, I know when you are a selectman, are saying, hey, are these really real? How much fluff is in there? And I can attest, and I know you can attest, to the fact that if we're taking a look at fluff, there is not much fluff on the town side. You agree?
Right, I agree with you. There's, you know, it's, as I say, the proposal was down 1.15%. There's, you have an increase in debt service because we have some, the high school is going online. They'll be paying a few $100,000 in interest to the, on the high school this year. But generally, you know, as I say, with decrease is unheard of. So it's, no, I mean, the highway department, for instance, we had a budget crisis about 15 years ago, and the highway department lost several people. They've never made them up. That's
right. When you were selectman, you had about 17 or 17 people on the highway department, right. And if I'm not in error, I believe we have, what, 11 or 12?
12, I think.
12 right now. Now, people should understand one thing. Back when you were selectman, we had roughly about 70, 75 miles of road. Today, we're getting close to 87, 88. Yeah.
And more roads to plow, and they do a remarkable job, the highway department, right. In Bethel, keeping with a lot of stuff is done in-house, you know, drainage and things, and to their credit, the town has some dedicated people.
Right. As we look at this budget this year, is there any one thing that you're really concerned with?
Well, let's see. Some of the things I've already mentioned, probably the biggest concern over everything else is what the state legislature will do in terms of the educational cost sharing. That is a number one concern.
Right, really. Because, you know, the question is, if they would cut 10%, which would be $800,000,
it's...
I don't know if the town could absorb that, frankly.
Well, that's the thing. When you have falling revenues on top of that, right. that just magnifies and multiplies that factor.
Right. Because, you know, when I look at it from a selectman's point of view, I says, you know, education has to be there. Public safety has got to be there, okay? So, you know, yeah, it's fire, okay, and it's police, education.